Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, April the 22nd, and this is meeting number 3 of the Corporate Services Committee. I'm your chair, Shelley Braddock, and just a couple announcements for this evening. Comments can be made by members of the public for a matter that is on the agenda by advising the chair during the request to address an item on the agenda section of the agenda. The public may submit written comments for matters that are on the agenda to jpaylove@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting for consideration by the committee. Comments received after 4:30 p.m. on the day of the committee meeting will be considered at the following council meeting. Comments submitted are included in the record. This meeting is live streamed as well as recorded and available on the Township website. Also, a note to the members of the public, all cell phones, pagers, and/or PDAs to be turned off. Members of the public who are attending and participating virtually are reminded to keep their microphones muted until they are acknowledged to speak. And as mentioned before, this meeting will be live streamed and recorded on the Township and available on the Township's website. The land acknowledgement statement. The Township of West Lincoln, being part of the Niagara region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any change in order of items on the agenda? Seeing none. Do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest? And I see none. We have 2 appointments for this evening. First, 5.1, item CS21-25, Carlos Alvarez, the audit planning report. And I believe, Mr. Alvarez, you have a PowerPoint presentation for us.
Good evening. Thank you for the warm welcome. My name is Carlos Alvarez, partner with KPMG, and I'm here to present the audit plan for the fiscal 2024 year. So good evening, Chairperson, Mayor, and members of Council. Certainly understanding that this document would have been circulated in advance, I will focus in on those items that I believe are most significant and material that I will walk you through as part of the audit plan. We will begin a few pages into the report on page number 4, just in terms of overall audit highlights. Your financial statements are prepared under the public sector accounting guidelines. There were a few notable changes in the underlying accounting standards that I will walk you through later in the report. As a reminder, we as auditors do not audit every single transaction. We do have this concept of materiality that we use to plan, perform, and execute the audit. And that number, as shown on page number 4, has been set at $694,000. Individually, for members of the committee, that is a large number. We have a much lower tolerance for audit differences that I'll get into in just a few slides. On the right hand of the page, in terms of the risk assessment, all of these items that are listed are largely consistent with the prior year. So in terms of our areas of focus, they remain consistent with those listed on page number 4, which are the same as the prior year. Moving further into the report in terms of the materiality, this slide number 6, provides a little bit of the science that we use in terms of how do we determine the materiality thresholds. If there's one number to remember based on my presentation, it is the number right at the bottom of the page number 6, and that is $34,700. To the extent that we do uncover an adjustment a misstatement that hits the mark of $34,700, we will be bringing that forward for discussion when we present the final audit results. In terms of the exciting changes in 2024, on this slide, slide number 7, it outlines 3 accounting changes. The good news is that 2 of the 3 had no impact whatsoever on you as an organization. The one listed at the very top of page number 7, that's labeled PS 3400 revenue, that is a new standard that does impact municipalities within Ontario and across Canada in different ways. This new standard clarifies how one should recognize revenue. Think about recreation, where you have a resident that pays a membership over a 12-month period. It goes into some detail in terms of how to account for those revenues over time. Your financial statements on the title page are labeled as consolidated. That simply means that you do have components, obviously the township itself, the library, and then the trust funds. And we perform audit procedures on each of those 3. Again, from a risk assessment summary, you can see the items that are listed here in terms of where we will spend the majority of our time and effort. I would like to highlight the first 2 rows, the first one being the management override of controls, and the second being revenue recognition. In terms of management override of controls, this is a risk that exists on every single audit in Canada. So this is not necessarily unique to the township. We as auditors are required to respond to the risk that your management team circumvents the controls that are in place to achieve a desired result. We as auditors do respond to this risk in our audit file. And for example, one of the key procedures that we perform is we look at manual journal entries that your management has proposed and recorded during the year, and we test these entries using certain criteria to make sure that they align and make sense with the operations being a municipal government. And certainly when we present the audit results to you at the end of the audit, we will certainly communicate any findings that we do find in this and in other areas. Revenue recognition is also a key area. We do perform, obviously, procedures on user fees, property taxation revenue, government grants. The fraud risk is rebuttable, which means we can rebut the specific fraud risk because there are not complex revenue arrangements. There's not an area of judgment that management can use to exercise. But even though we rebut the fraud risk, we still perform all of the other procedures to ensure existence, completeness, accuracy, and that your revenues are recorded in the correct accounting period. The remaining pages that are part of the risk assessment go into a little bit more detail in terms of what are some of the underlying procedures that we perform in these different areas, beginning with revenues at the top of page 12, operating expenditures, tangible capital assets. As a reminder, in 2023, there was a significant new audit accounting standard named asset retirement obligations. Because this is year 2 under that new accounting standard, we will just look to see if management recorded any updates during the year. Moving further in the report, employee benefit obligations, investments, and also the investment in Peninsula West Power. Again, we just provided a little bit of the flavor in terms of the procedures that we perform in each of these areas. One important topic that is critical in terms of the relationship between external auditors and the committee and council is just the topic of fraud. As a reminder, all of you have an open line of communication to myself. If during the course of a a fiscal year and during the audit process. If any members of council have any concerns that they would like to bring forward to my attention, certainly my contact information is provided at the beginning of the audit plan, and certainly you are more than welcome to reach out to me directly. In terms of the audit plan, from a timing perspective, you can see the timing that has been outlined on page 16. This is very similar to the timing that you would have seen and experienced in the prior year. And consistent with last year, we are expecting a no surprises audit process. Independence, it's always important to talk about independence. For those who do read our audit reports, there's one word that's listed right in front, and that's the independent auditor's report. It is very important that we maintain our independence. I do often get questions from council about, give me an example. So one of the examples is we are not here to prepare journal entries. We are not here to prepare books and records. We are here to audit your records. So for example, if we do come across a technical issue, we will ask management to perform the research and come to us with their position for us to then audit that position. So that's just one example. There are a few appendices that are included in the package. We do an annual engagement letter that is executed with the Township that certainly is available upon request. In terms of the auditing standards, this is the how we perform an audit. There was one notable new auditing standard, and this has to do with how auditors deal with group audits. Again, you are a group audit because you have that word consolidated on your title page. But from our perspective, we do not believe that this will have any material or notable impact on the audit for fiscal 2024. I call this the brain slide, just in terms of, the discharging of your responsibilities. One item to highlight is that we do have a board leadership center that dives into, what are some of those questions that you as council and as committee members should be asking, not just of management, but also of your auditors. So certainly I expect that these links do work. If you do have any difficulties with these links, you can reach out to management or myself. Okay. And that would be the end of the formal topics as part of the audit plan. I would like to highlight that as part of the trends around AI. We do have an exciting new tool called MindBridge, which is a made-in-Canada story, whereby we will be using AI to assist in how we audit certain elements of your financial statements. So more to come. It's just part of the state of where the audit is going in the future, and we will report back on the use of MindBridge when we present the audit results later, early summer. So with that, I will pause and put it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll turn to my colleagues to see if anybody has any questions or comments. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll make it brief. Through to the presenter, thank you very much for your presentation here and for the information. I just want to say that you had me at Made in Canada. So I appreciate hearing that, and I look forward to learning more about that throughout the process. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Maker.
I'll just be quick. Just to better understand, you identified the one risk there, management override of controls. What does that mean exactly, and what would be an example of that?
So in every audit, so this is a risk that is embedded in our professional rules in Canada. And irrespective of whether or not you are a municipality or a for-profit entity, and this is the risk that naturally always exists, because when you think about fraud, you have to think about the different elements that would cause someone to commit fraud, whether they have the motivation, whether they have the opportunity. And so naturally, because those risks are always present, auditors always need to respond to it. And that's why we develop certain procedures. Certainly we have faith, obviously in all the management teams across Canada, but we don't audit based on faith alone. So we do need to implement some certain procedures just to act almost like a double check and to validate that everything is being conducted in accordance with the control framework that has been designed.
That answer your question? I don't see any other questions, and I don't have any of myself. So thank you very much for your presentation, and we look forward to seeing you back again when the weather is warmer.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to our next appointment, which is item CS 22-25, Peter Donato, 2 Mile Creek Productions, re-education and information on the need for a Niagara-wide film office. And this is for information, and I believe you are online, sir. You're muted, sir.
Unmute.
There we
Hello,
go.
everybody.
Welcome.
You can hear me now?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sharing my screen, correct?
Not at this time, you're not.
But that's what you want me to do.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. Has anybody received the information that was sent? Has anybody received anything in advance in an email?
Yes, sir, we have that as part of our package.
Okay, so everybody on this call can see, well, they can see my screen, but they have the information in front of them.
Yes.
Okay. Well, and do I just start now?
Please go ahead.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity. We're really just here to get a letter of support or a letter of endorsement. We've been collecting them from a few places around the region. I apologize, it's just myself, my partner, Nigel, who's been working with me on this program for 15 months, is sadly no longer with us. He passed recently. Great obituary in the local in Niagara-on-the-Lake, if you want to look that up. So Nigel and I, and you'll see a picture on page 4 of the two of us. We call ourselves champions. We're really volunteers. We both have a background in film and television. Mine is still, transitioning from part-time to full-time. Nigel, of course, spent his career in film and TV. He's a bit of a legend at the CBC, and even until his last, months here with us at 81 years old, he was writing scripts and producing his episodes and blogs and podcasts. It was quite the gentleman. And so we've been pursuing a very challenging project, and I say challenging because, as we all know, to get everybody in Niagara to agree on something will never be easy. But the point is that film and television is a large market here, well, in Canada in general, specifically in Ontario. Obviously, Southern Ontario, if you're not aware, is one of the top markets in North America for film and television production. And Niagara does not have a film office and doesn't really have a lot of cohesion. A lot of towns in Niagara have maybe an events person who handles a film inquiry, or has somebody in another role who might sort of be stumbled on with a film inquiry. And there's a lot of missed opportunities, and we've been lobbying, Nigel and I, the economic development team under George Spezza, to take a look. Our numbers are pretty solid. We have made some progress even as recently as 2 days ago, where the region is now going to spend a little bit of money this year on an ad. I won't get into that, but it's wouldn't be my first choice of where to spend dollars, but they are going to present and promote Niagara as a film destination to a targeted group of international producers and locations professionals like myself. So basically, I have this document you have. We have some media that we've generated. We've got some great points that strengthen our cause, comparing the film markets in Hamilton, in London, Kingston, Mississauga, where I'm working right now on a production. And there's just so much opportunity. Niagara has basically scratched the surface of the opportunity and potential to attract and generate film and television revenue. And for those not aware, film and television covers a lot of areas today. It's not just the feature film that we all go to the theater to watch. It's not just the Netflix or Crave productions such as The Handmaid's Tale that have been in Niagara a few times, but all across the spectrum, small, large, short films, documentaries. There's so much opportunity, and we are basically lobbying the government and making our case, and we've generated some letters of support. We have one coming from Jim Diodati from the Niagara Falls office, and I was directed to present our idea here where it be a better opportunity to educate the council, and maybe council as a group says, yes, this makes sense. You might want to ask me some questions. I'm open to those tonight. But we're really just now looking for a letter of support, whether it's the mayor, economic development officer. And so I was invited and asked to present and introduce our pitch to your team today.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to look around my committee here and see who would have some questions for you. So I see Councillor Chichuk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, thank you very much for your presentation. We did get it in our package, and so I've had time to read through it. I just ask a question. You were invited here to West Lincoln to present to us. Who invited you?
Your CAO invited me.
I see. Okay, and because we don't have an economic development department, that's why I asked. And how do you see a film office operating in Niagara?
Well, that's a good question. Thank you. A film office basically it's a full-time. It could be one person. In the case of Kingston, it's 3 people. That's a discussion for future. But in film and television, you need a person or persons who are dedicated to the space, who act fast, and that's the big issue here. And they know who's who. So 3 things that a film office would deliver. A film office would know who's in the business, who in Niagara works in film and TV. There are many directors, producers, line producers. There are gaffers. I mean, I don't want to go through the whole list because you can imagine when you watch a film or a TV show, you look at the credits, you see, wow, look at all these people that made this piece of art. So a lot of professionals in Niagara work in film, and the ones that I know, 50% leave Niagara to go somewhere else to work, whether that's Hamilton or, of course, Toronto. We'd like them to stay here, number one. So a film office has to have a good updated directory of all the professionals, part-time, full-time, who work in film and television. And the reason for that is when a production kicks tires and inquires and says, hey, we want to bring this film or this TV series or this episode to Niagara, they're going to ask, I need this, 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 and this. They're going to have a list of people. They don't always have their own people. It's cheaper to hire a local, no matter who you are, than to bring in somebody who you have to then pay a per diem and a hotel room. So number one, a film office has to have a good, accurate directory of contacts. Number two, a good film office has to have a robust, up-to-date directory of locations. And that's the key ingredient here. And right now, with Ontario Creates, there's about 80 approximately locations listed in this database. There needs to be 800. Because what producers and directors and companies do, without even calling or emailing Niagara, they go online, those that know, they do a search, they find Ontario Creates, they look at locations database, they don't see a lot. That might be enough for them to say, well, no offense, but I see 300 in Hamilton, or whatever that number is. So a good film office is always marketing to the region, to all the stakeholders potentially, to get their listing made public. We might have our own database created as well. We might just work and expand the existing Ontario Creations database. The third thing a good film office does is it proactively and quickly gets work. And a good example is that productions do inquire about Niagara. There is a mechanism in place for a producer, no matter where they are in the world, to fill out a form. This is relatively new. That form hopefully gets them a response. We've tested it. It doesn't. And if you do not respond quickly to a film inquiry, you're never going to get their business. So a film office is like a lobbyist. We are a professional organization that will quickly get that producer or that company on the phone, answer the questions, show them around virtually, or in some cases, a production that's serious says, we want to come, we want to bring the director, the producer, the cinematographer, we want to see these locations, and the film office will facilitate and make sure that that team quickly and efficiently sees what Niagara has to offer. They pull the trigger and can say yes, and before you know it, you've hired 1,000 people to work on a production. So I hope I answered your question of what does a film office do. It does what any small enterprise does. It proactively closes deals.
So, thank you. So, Madam Chair, if I might just follow up to that. So, Mr. Donato, you are in the film office business, and you're, from what I'm seeing in your presentation, as well as the reference to we, us, would suggest that you're the person who would like to have a film office in Niagara, which would then be the film office is the coordinator. They're a database. They're a very knowledgeable organization that can pull the right people together. But they are a business, and you are one of those businesses. Is that correct?
Well, I'm a member of the film community. Let's call myself a freelancer. That is what a lot of people do. I'm a location manager. I'm a scout, location scout. I'm a fixer on the Amazing Race Canada. That's actually my title. And that I fix things. I make things happen, if you want to call it that. I'm a producer in training. You'll find a lot of people in film and television wear several hats. I'm producing my own feature film, but that's, a separate thing. So a film office it's an actual office with a door and some desks and computers and staff. It could be one person, it could be 3 people. But a film office represents the region. So the challenge here is that Niagara, as we all know, has many regions. And the challenge is that if I'm a film production person and I'm not from Niagara, and most of the time they're not, I might even be from Toronto. And I might go onto this landing page that the Economic Development Group has created, and I'm going to see 12 regions. I mean, I'm a part-time business owner here in Niagara. I'm a small business owner, and I get this every week. And probably some of you get this all the time. People look at you and go, Grimsby, Fort Erie, Crystal Beach, Port Colborne, Pelham. I mean, I think Niagara is confusing to the outsider. And so if you want to shoot in Niagara, what does that mean? That means potentially like looking at 12 or 15 or 20 different communities to potentially bring your production to. So organization would be the number one thing that a film office would facilitate, but it would curate the inquiry, and it would lead that production company down the right path. It would hold their hand, answer their questions, show them that they can shoot pretty much every scene you could ever want to shoot, whether it's Toronto, Hamilton, Mississauga. You can shoot that scene in Niagara if you know where to go and who to talk to. So I hope I answered that question, but yes, a film office is it's a business, but it's a department, it's an agency, you could call it. It is an entity that brings jobs into the region and brings economic development into the region. And myself and a few others are championing the cause to create awareness and hopefully one day come back to this council and present a business plan and a vote to say, yes, we are going to join, or we endorse the film office in Niagara. And, in a small way, West Lincoln will benefit from that.
So, Madam Chair, thank you, Mr. Donato. But through you, Madam Chair, what you're saying is a film office does not have to be owned, operated, or in any way manned or supported financially or operationally by municipalities, either individually or a group, like they are in many other municipalities. But it could be that you're looking for this to be started by municipalities interested in it, but it really should grow into an independent business that manages itself, funds itself, and that the film industry supports through their need for a lobbyist or a film office that will get them all the details.
Well, I'll answer that question with some facts. A film office, so the Toronto Film Office is one.
Yes,
the London
I'm
Film,
aware
the
of that.
London Film Office is a good example. The London Film Office was created 5 years ago with a $200,000 grant. The London Film Office lives under the economic development arm of the City of London. They've just renewed the first 3-year grant to 3 more years because they're proving to be worth it. Kingston, they run their film office under tourism. You could argue 100 times whether is it tourism, is it economic development, it's a bit of both. Mississauga, who I'm dealing with right now, they have a film office, 2 full-time staff, and that covers film and music, as an example, okay? So I, as a private citizen, would never, even if I won the lottery, I would never start a film office in Niagara. You can't make money in a film office. Who makes money? The region makes money. The creation of jobs. If you read my document, you'll see some case studies. So we're lobbying, we're volunteering, a bunch of us, to convince the government of Niagara to create and fund a film office so we can prove that this is worth it. And we will do that. Does that make sense?
Well, I think that the history of Niagara is very, very deep and thorough, and I hope and wish you good luck in your enterprises of filmmaking, whether it's the full-length film that you're working on yourself or others that you may help to bring forward. And thank you for answering my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Peter, thank you for your time and making your presentation here. I am going to be a little blunt with you, though. I appreciate the effort you're going through here. I can see the passion and the commitment to the film industry. A little bit about myself real briefly. I'm a freelance film and video production producer myself. I understand the struggles and the hurdles that come with it. If I can be honest with you, I think you're biting off too much right now. I think you really should be focusing your approach on more of a regional lobbyist group. I think all the components you're trying to bring into it really does come into a private enterprise. I think if you were serious about this and you went through the approach to deal with this to the region and make it regional, I think the advocacy department, and that would be paired with maybe their economic department in terms of generating these types of opportunities, would be better served. I think you're just trying to cover a little too much too quickly, and I think that's probably going to be a continued struggle of yours. I think in principle it's easy to support the concept, but I think all the components you're bringing into this just really makes it difficult for the average person to even understand what it is you're going to do because of how everything crosses over. And again, thank you, Madam Chair, to the presenter. I don't want you to leave here necessarily with a bad taste in your mouth by any means, but I just think you need to really refine what your ask is, make it clear, and I really think if we're going to try and track different types of job opportunities, it really needs to be through that economic department and have them have more of a film division, a division, like a category that they can then pursue on the side, much as they would with other types of efforts. I think what you're starting here, and even in your own comments there, understanding the struggles that people have for Niagara in terms of trying to attract this type of business, it does exist. It certainly doesn't exist to necessarily these volumes. But again, when I look at our community, our community, is a welcoming community, but we certainly don't want film crews everywhere and every which way. And that's just understanding each municipality and its uniqueness. Again, I applaud your efforts here, but I really think you need to kind of go back to the drawing board and revisit what your ask is, make it a little bit clearer and make it a little bit smaller and build from there. I just think you're trying to take on too much too quickly. But again, you're an ambitious guy, so I applaud you for the efforts there. And thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Is there anybody else that has any comments? Councillor Maychuk?
No, I have seen the benefits firsthand in Hamilton in terms of revenue, but my question, and you pretty well answered it, was how would you fund this office? I see the benefits of it, but how would you fund it? You would be looking for government support, is that basically it? Or private sector from elsewhere, or when the films come in, do they pay a portion towards the film office? How do you offset your costs so that you can operate effectively?
Okay. Well, can I answer that question?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I guess, and I apologize if I wasn't clear, in Hamilton, and this is a good example, in Hamilton, if you read the document that was shared on page 8, in 2022, 173 productions generated $73 million in economic activity. So 900 film permits were issued in 2022, and 9,000 locals worked in that industry. If Niagara wants more jobs, and the Deloitte study, we all know, I'm sure this council knows, that the economic development team under George Spezza in June 2023 identified 6 emerging regions for Niagara to pursue. I'm assuming everybody here knows that. Film is on that list. So our question is, well, if film's on that list, what is Niagara doing about it? What are the 12 regions and departments doing to attract more film and television? And we're not saying we want to shut down your small towns and we want these trucks to come in and take over your areas. But I think that if Niagara is going to thrive and survive and look at the future, which every municipality has to do, it's clear that the professionals have said film is a great place to look. So we're not making things up. We're not pulling numbers out of the air. These are facts. And Niagara either wants to participate and grow in this area or not, and then lament in 20 years they missed another opportunity. So it makes no sense for a private individual to create a film office because it creates jobs. If Niagara wants to create well-paying jobs and create economic development and rent more cars and have more citizens paying more taxes, then this is a place to consider and look. And all I'm asking for today, I'm not asking for money. I came here asking for a letter of support. I'm not expecting it today. It might take more months of discussion. I'm happy to take any email from anybody on this council or a private one-on-one conversation to share more facts. But the facts are there. You cannot dispute what Kingston is doing, what London is doing, what Mississauga has done, and what Hamilton has done so well. And with all due respect to Hamilton, we've got them covered. Niagara has Hamilton covered and then some. So that's all I'm doing here is presenting information. We have letters of support. We're getting more letters. And all I was asking was, is there somebody on this council, whether the mayor on behalf of council or somebody else says, you know what, this makes sense. West Lincoln would like to participate in more film and television development down the road, whatever that might look like. We think this is a good idea. It aligns with the region's forecast, and we endorse and support this effort. That's all I'm asking for.
Madam Mayor.
So thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Donato, are you hoping that that this will land in the Economic Development Department at the region, that somebody will be allocated that task to get things rolling? Is that your intent moving forward, to get things moving, is to actually bring pressure through support from regional other municipalities, saying to the economic development of the region, you know, yes, we all want this, so we hope that you will explore this? Is that sort of the long-term goal? I'm just sort of wondering what your plan is to get it rolling.
Well, listen, we started this, we're now in April. So literally in January, just over a year ago, we started this pursuit. Nigel and I, the late Nigel Napier Andrews, we had this idea and didn't even realize, because of course we're not on any council, that there was a Deloitte study published, and it's out there. You can look it up and read. I'll send it to you guys. So the region is saying film is an area of growth. We had this idea. It was just sort of lucky timing. And so now all we're doing right now is building our case, building a database. We're building a business plan. And we believe that and maybe you guys could tell me we're wrong, we believe our strategy is to create pressure, and what that pressure could look like, a letter of support from if we got a letter of support from each of the 12 regions, and some were from the mayors, some was from the economic development officer, I think it would bolster our case. It would make others listen. It would make others pay attention. Already we feel like we have done the right thing because we now know, and I can share with you, I just found this out 2 days ago, the region has decided to spend money targeting the film industry with an ad coming up this year. Where does that money come from? I don't know. Is it the right way to spend whatever that costs? I'm going to find out. That's not my decision, right? But we know that they realize the value of this industry and they're doing something. So we're encouraged.
So thank you. Members of council might not be aware of that study. Those of us on regional council might be aware of that. And we know that was an emerging sector that they were looking at. However, as that conversation has gone on, it hasn't gone any further than that I'm aware of. And Regional Councillor Witteveen is also in the audience. So the fact that this is starting to come, I think you just gave a better explanation of what your plan is just now in terms of trying to get the region to actually move on this by saying individual municipalities are interested. So thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Maychuk.
Yeah, I'll just be very quick. It's more a comment. If I was you, I would also add to your list the Niagara Parks Commission, because certainly it would be an excellent site for a number of movie shots and films. So I'm just throwing that out there again for you to consider in terms of outreach and getting some feedback.
Thank you. Yes, Sarah Wood, who's on that team, is our contact. Whenever I have a film or television inquiry, we would go to Sarah. She's amazing. And they're lucky. You know, the Parks Commission are lucky because they have the world wonder of the falls, and you just can't duplicate that in Hamilton or Kingston or London. So thank you very much. I do know Sarah and her team.
I don't see any further questions or comments from the remainder of my committee, and I have not yet heard any of them willing to put forward a suggestion that we are ready to draft a letter of support to the region in regards to this project. However, I'm sure a few of us will watch this, and if are interested in the future to advocate for this type of situation to come forward to the region, we will bring it up at a future meeting. So thank you very much for your time, sir, and thank you for attending. And we're moving on to item number 6, which is request to address items on the agenda. 1 hour in total shall be allocated for this section of the agenda, and each individual person shall only be provided with 5 minutes to address their issue. A response may not be provided, and the matter may be referred to staff. Are there any members of the public that are present this evening that would like to address any items on the Corporate Service Committee agenda? Seeing none, and I will turn to IT and ask if anybody in the virtual world has anything.
Not seeing any, Madam Chair.
Thank you. There is no consent agenda items for this evening, and we're now on to 8 communications. And I have a few resolutions to read for you, so sit down and have a cup of coffee. Item CS 24-25, recognition of Canadian Viral Hepatitis Elimination Day in the Township of West Lincoln. Recommendation, whereas hepatitis B and C are among Canada's most burdensome infectious diseases, measured in liver damage, cancer, lives lost, and significant cost to our public health care system, whereas more than 204,000 people in Canada are living with hepatitis C, and more than 250,000 are living with hepatitis B. Whereas hepatitis C is curable and hepatitis B is vaccine preventable and treatable. Whereas Canada has committed to eliminating viral hepatitis as a public health threat by 2030, and whereas Canadian Viral Hepatitis Elimination Day provides an opportunity to highlight the need for policies that support easy access to testing, treatment, and care for those affected, paving the way paving the way towards elimination. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township of West Lincoln acknowledge May 9th, 2025 as Canadian Viral Hepatitis Elimination Day. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Riley, second by Mayor Ganan. Do I have any questions or comments in regards to this resolution? No? And the vote will come in front of you. Should be there. And that carries unanimously. Item 8.2, CS 25-25, Kate Bonneville, KB Events Canada. Request for designation of a community festival 2025 Poutine and Mac and Cheese Fest. Recommendation that the correspondence from Kate Bonneville, owner-operator of KB Events Canada, dated January 24, 2025, requesting that the 2025 Poutine and Mac and Cheese Fest be designated as a community festival in order to obtain a special events permit from the Ontario Alcohol and Gaming Commission be received, and two, that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of West Lincoln hereby designate the 2025 Poutine and Mac and Cheese Fest as a community festival of municipal significance in accordance with the Liquor License Act of Ontario and the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, which festival is to be held from Saturday, May 3rd to and including Sunday, May 4th, 2025 at the West Niagara Agricultural Centre, 7402 Mud Street, Grassy, Ontario. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chichuk, second by Councillor Riley. And do I have any comments or questions? Sure. Councillor Riley.
I'll make it brief. I can't remember how many years ago, oh my goodness, try that again. I can't remember how many years ago or so. It must have been around shortly after the pandemic, even maybe 2022, but I know I was driving back to town and I saw this. I actually didn't even know this was happening, and I saw this event happening at our agricultural center, and so I swung in there with my kids, and it was the first time I had a mac and cheese ball, and it was, you know, surprisingly delicious. I wasn't sure what to expect. I don't think my one son, he didn't care for it, but the other ones loved it, so certainly more than happy to support this at this time. It was an awesome event, and hope they continue with great success for them.
Anyone else? Councillor Chichuk.
Same thing for me, Madam Chair, and the reason that I was willing to move this motion is I too have experienced about 20 pounds in one day of mac and cheese and cheesecakes and all kinds of cheese. It was a great event. It had lineups at most of the vendors' trucks, and I think everyone enjoyed themselves.
Anyone else? I just have one comment, because certainly you need something to wash down all that poutine and mac and cheese. So I was glad to see this come up on our agenda for this evening. So if that's all the questions or comments, we're ready for the vote. And that carries. Moving along to 8.3, item CS 26-25, West Lincoln Age-Friendly Advisory Committee, the minutes of February 7th, 2025 and March 7th, 2025. Do I have a mover? Mayor Ganan and Councillor Maychuk. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, and the vote will come up. And that carries. 8.4, Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, the minutes of February 5th, 2025 and March 5th, 2025. Do I have a mover? Mayor Ganan and Councillor Maychuk. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, and the vote will come up. And that carries. 8.5, item CS 28-25, recognition of Doctors' Day. Recommendation 1, that the Township of West Lincoln is proud to recognize and celebrate the 600 dedicated physicians working in the Niagara region. And 2, that the Township of West Lincoln Council acknowledges May 1st, 2025 as Doctors' Day in Ontario. Do I have a mover? Councillor Riley and Councillor Maychuk. Any questions or comments? Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be brief as well. I support this 1,000%.
Okay, great. Anyone else? I too also support it and have struggled personally with obtaining a family physician and know others that are in that same situation right now. So I'd love to see that number jump from 600. So that would be a wonderful thing that could occur from this recognition. And the vote will come in front of you. And that carries. Staff reports. 9.1, item CS 29-25, Manager of Legislative Services / Clerk, Justin Paylove. Recommendation report LLS-02-2025, Alternative Voting Methods for the 2026 Municipal and School Board Elections. Recommendation 1, that recommendation report LLS-02-25 titled Alternative Voting Methods for the 2026 Municipal and School Board Election dated April 26, 2025 be received, and 2, that Council approves of the following voting methods for the 2026 Municipal and School Board Elections: paper ballots with tabulators, traditional, and internet voting. 3, that a bylaw be adopted to provide for the alternative voting methods and to permit advance voting as per the Municipal Election Act 1996, and 4, that the Council authorizes the clerk to proceed in a joint municipal RFP process with interested local area municipalities for an election voting method and equipment for the 2026 municipal and school board elections. May I have a mover? Councillor Riley, and second by Mayor Ganan, and I open the floor up. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I have a couple questions. I guess before I get to my questions, I just will mention through you, Madam Chair, and with the current federal election, it was noted, especially at the advanced polls, some frustration voters have been having because it's not so streamlined and they don't have the tabulators, but they have had more options to vote in terms of locations. And so I think, when we look at what happened in the last election, when we were able to introduce the internet voting, that was a really big success. People were really grateful for it. In fact, I actually got flack because it wasn't part of the by-election. And so, in addressing that, but I also think even with the paper ballots and the tabulators, definitely help keep things moving for those who are taking care of it. And so I'm happy to see this. I guess my question to you, Madam Chair, I'm going to go to the clerk first, but maybe he can send it to the right person. And maybe my memory is wrong here, but I feel like we've dealt with this in the beginning of 2026. Is this just coming to us a little bit earlier? Is my memory right? And 2, why is it coming earlier?
Through the chair to Councillor Riley, yes, you are correct. This is coming much earlier. Usually it's in a little bit before May of the year of the election. This is coming to you to actually give permission for myself to proceed with the joint RFP process that the local area municipality clerks are looking towards. I also received a lot of flack for not doing the online voting for this by-election. It is an expensive option, which is why the area local municipalities are looking to combine our efforts to seek out a online voting method that we all can agree on and that all meets our tests, as well as keeping those costs down if we all go in together. So this is just authorizing, while I recognize that council has indicated that they are in support of the voting method, we do need to enter into this RFP process much earlier to kind of get this ball rolling. Last week there was a meeting involved. Jessica went to learn some more information of what other municipalities are looking for at this time. So currently this is just providing us the ability to proceed with something like that. I've seen a lot of municipalities in the area look pretty excited towards this, and this is just providing a cost-effective approach while also just getting our ducks in a row.
Okay, if I may, thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to our clerk. Thank you for the explanation. Again, I think this is actually an excellent idea. Then I think if we're trying to bring other municipalities on board, you're building the integrity and the confidence in the program, and then we're getting a better price point for it. So it actually costs taxpayers less, even better. I suspect in the upcoming election, in the next year and a bit, there you're going to see more people involved, or sorry, more people using it, and I certainly know that there's a lot of people expressing at the advanced polls why the federal government seems to be behind in the times in terms of how they're handling their elections. I think this is something that West Lincoln was able to get on board at the right time, considering what kind of steered us towards it, considering the pandemic, and happy to see this move forward and be so inclusive in terms of, or accessible to so many people who rely on it, because accessibility alone isn't always easy, and this is we're a small town, so happy to see that this is coming forward, and hopefully more people will turn out and vote. We want to see more. I think we set a record last time, or we saw an increase last time. I hope we go even further. I want to see what were we, about between 43 overall, or 48%, I think, almost, or 46% in Ward 3 in the last general election. I'm hoping that we can break that 50 ceiling, maybe even 70. So I'll keep hoping.
Councillor Chichok.
Do we each get to vote twice? To achieve that standard. That's quite a leap, but I would definitely be encouraged to see that kind of thing happen. Through you, Madam Chair, to the clerk, I'm just wondering, we are starting early, and that's great, and we are planning on dealing with, is this going to be all the clerks of Niagara Region, or how is this planned to be a joint RFP?
Through the chair, to Councillor Bradrick, it is up to the individual councils whether they like to support internet voting. Not all of the councils in the Niagara region are in support. The vast majority are moving towards that, and a lot of the clerks are advocating towards that. Again, it is up to the individual councils to decide what methods they choose to employ for their voting methods. However, we've seen a larger majority. We were one of the very few, or at least one of the pioneers last time around. They saw the success that we had. We had staggering voter turnout in comparison to the region. I think we were the highest, especially in advanced voting as well. We saw huge success, and they kind of wanted to replicate that success that we had, and so I think it's a majority. I think it's about 7 or 8 that have so far signed on to. We haven't seen the results of that joint RFP. We're anticipating it coming in lower. However, it is a majority of the municipalities so far.
That's great, and I know that there are 5 different kinds of methods, but we're looking for an RFP for the not for all 5.
Through the chair, to Councillor Chichok, yeah, that may have been confusing in the recommendation there. It is simply for the internet voting process only. That is a costly procedure.
Yes.
Last time around, it was a costly procedure, not more than other municipalities, but generally speaking, for the method, it is expensive. We're looking for any type of cost savings that we can get into, just based on the success that we had. However, yeah, the joint RFP would just be for the internet voting portion, not for the physical tabulators.
And Madam Chair, I think that the clerk would be doing a very good job to get to my colleague, Councillor Riley's 70% hope through if we were to somehow combine voting with drive-throughs at Tim Hortons, and we could pick up everything we needed at once. So I'll look forward to that day too. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Maychak.
Yeah, through the chair, I want to commend our clerk for participating in this process and investigating it. I heard that last time was a record number of people voting. What was the actual increase from a percentage perspective? Because I think it's great when more people have the ease to vote, and we certainly want to have the opportunity for as many people to vote. So I was just curious, was that the first time as well, and what was the percentage increase?
Through the chair, to Councillor Maychak, so the turnout for the 2018 was 38.46, and then 2022 was 43.55. We were one of the very few municipalities in all of Ontario that saw an increase in voter turnout, as well as we were the leader in the Niagara region as well. We dominated the numbers there. We did see, I think it's about 6.5–7% increase, which is unheard of for an increase from election to election, largely attributed to the use of our electronic voting. We received a lot of positive feedback. So if you'll go to the first schedule there, online voting, which was only offered for the first time ever in the 2022, saw 2,467 votes of the total 5,542, which is a pretty sizable number.
Going back to Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just going to point out too, that was the overall average you're referring to. I was able to pull up the voter turnout and number of ejected and declined ballots. And so, for Ward 3 there we had, in one of the polling stations, polling 5 was 45.7%, as well as polling 6 had 47.36%. I think that's important to put out there for those who are watching at home and those in the gallery to understand that, we were inching closer, at least in Ward 3, to that 50%. And I'm really hoping that, our overall can increase as well, even further. And I think I said this last time when there was conversations around what this is going to look like. And there's a couple members of council at the time that were really concerned and hesitant, but as I said then, I'll say now, you can't put a price on democracy. Yeah, it's even better if we can get it at a cheaper price, but I think it's worth every dollar.
Seeing no other, I have just one comment/question in regards to the RFP process. Going back to for the 2022 election, I do recall there being various companies that were the distributors of that service, and I wondered, will we see the parameters of the RFP process come forward to this council, or is that something that will be decided amongst the clerks group?
To the chair, this will likely be borne out through the clerks group. However, I see no problem with the councils seeing that. However, having each council weigh in on different parameters would obviously cause a serious lag time that we're trying to avoid. I think the clerks group will be providing their best practices and suggestions towards what we're looking for. A big stress is not only accessibility, however, security is always a huge portion of specifically an online voting method. Last time we went through a pretty strenuous stress test with other municipalities in Ontario. With the vendor that we went with, which was Votes, we are anticipating to do the exact same thing with a pretty strenuous stress test, and hopefully able to spend more money on certain security measures in order to ensure the confidence in the voting method, as well as our own peace of mind with that. We had no issues last time, and we're not anticipating more, but it's always good to be prepared for these possible issues where people may have concerns with online voting. We like to put those at ease and go through every single hoop that we possibly can as a serious measure, as well as keeping the data within Canada is always a prerequisite for that was a prerequisite in the 2022 online voting, and will continue to be a prerequisite for any vendor to bid on this opportunity. It would have some serious security requirements.
Well, you stole my thunder. That was going to be my question. So thank you very much for that clarity. And I will, if there's no other, then we will have the vote come up in front of you. And that carries. And moving along to 9.2, item CS 30-25, Director of Legal and Legislative Services, Jessica Dyson. Recommendation Report LLS-03-2025, Property Standards and Administrative Monetary Penalty Bylaw Amendments. Recommendation 1, that Recommendation Report LLS-03-2025, titled Property Standards and Administrative Monetary Penalties Bylaw Amendments, dated April 22nd, 2025, be received, and 2, that an amending bylaw as found in Schedule A to this report be passed to amend the Township of West Lincoln Property Standards Bylaw number 98-105, and 3, that an amending bylaw as found in Schedule B to this report be passed to amend the Township of West Lincoln administrative penalties for non-parking bylaw number 2021-84. Do I have a mover? Councillor Riley, second by Mayor Ganan. Any comments or questions? Councillor Chichuk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, I guess it would be our director that would answer this, since she's the author of the report. I'm familiar with the idea of disconnecting downspouts, which in the past builders have done, and homes have had them discharging into the combined source, et cetera. And I don't know if it's somebody else that should answer this, but the question is, I'm familiar with the notices that went out from the City of Toronto, and they gave a reprieve by making it very well known that by certain dates there would be changes to the bylaws so that people could take the action to disconnect their downspouts, and so they wouldn't go into the combined source, and so that they would not be discharging into the local ditches along the roadside. So is that something that's foreseen in this process of getting to including it in the AMPS and making sure that downspouts and sump pumps are not discharging? You don't want them in the combined sewers. You don't want them in the roadside ditches either.
I'm sorry, through the chair to Councillor Bradrick, or sorry, Chair
It's okay,
Bradrick
she's better
to
looking.
Councillor Chichuk. I'm sorry, is your question about communications? Or
It
to
is
get
in
the
the process as well
Okay.
as the communications process regarding, this is a change.
Mhm.
It is asking for no more sump pump discharging into municipal ditches. And I know that sump pumps sometimes get put into combined sewers, into a sewer within the property. I don't know why, but I've seen it. The other thing is that if you've got downspouts and they are discharging and they head for a municipal drainage ditch, will we be telling people that they should stop before we actually give them an AMPS bylaw infraction?
Absolutely.
That's really where I was going.
Sure, thank you for the question. Our bylaw enforcement perspective is always education. We always like to educate our residents prior to issuing any type of penalty. So yes, that would be our first course of action to educate the members of the public. I'm also working with our communications specialist and our bylaw enforcement officer about bringing forward more communications on our current bylaws, which will come out in May. So we'll see that moving forward, and this can be part of our communication engagement with respect to bylaw enforcement as well.
Great. And this is not a precursor to the phenomenal amount of attention the City of Hamilton has gotten about roadside ditches are not there for private ditching, for private water, private storm water. And this is where this is going, I assume. We're not looking to put into place a rate for estimated discharge or on hard surfaces on individual properties or farms at this point, are we?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, that's the answer I wanted. Stop. Thank you.
Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll go through you back to the director. I guess the only question I have is communication was part of it, but I don't see it here. Maybe I missed it, but considering how information sometimes doesn't get relayed to anybody who's moving into the municipality, and sometimes people just have things set up a certain way, will you at least exercise some compassion, considering some people might just get a notice one day because they don't realize it? So could there be kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking for, a one-time forgiveness?
Through you, Chair Bradrick, to Councillor Riley, like I mentioned, we always educate first. So if we were to receive a complaint, our process would be to speak with the individual, educate them, and then move forward.
Okay, so it'd be more like if they are non-compliant at that point, we could expect that they would be issued
That's correct.
a notice. Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other questions or comments, the vote will come in front of you. And that carries. Item 9.3, CS 31-25, Manager Legislative Services / Clerk Justin Palove, and Coordinator Legislative Services Barb Hutchinson. Recommendation Report LLS-04-2025, Delegation of Authority Bylaw Amendment, Director of Operations Infrastructure. Recommendation 1, that recommendation report LLS-04-2025 titled Delegation of Authority Bylaw Amendment, Director of Operations Infrastructure, dated April 22nd, 2025, be received, and 2, that amending bylaw such as the one attached as Schedule A be approved. May I have a mover? Councillor Maychuk and Mayor Ganan. And any comments or questions? Seeing none, the vote will come in front of you. And that carries. 9.4, item CS 32-25, Director of Corporate Services, CFO, Caitlin Repovs. Information Report T-08-2025, Quarter 1 Financial Update. Recommendation 1, that Information Report T-08-2025, titled Quarter 1 Financial Update, dated April 22nd, 2025, be received. Can I have a mover? Councillor Riley, and second by Councillor Chichuk. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, the vote will come in front of you. And that carries. Other business. Members of committee, verbal update, item CS 33-25, members of committee, verbal updates from members of boards and committees if required. Does anybody have anything that they would like to talk about? Mayor Ganan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to combine the next two events, okay? So that we have other business of an informative nature and member of boards and committees. So first of all, I want to say that as a member of a committee, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee are doing their part in terms of today's Earth Day festivities, and on Saturday are cleaning up the grounds around the community center. So those who are interested in coming out and cleaning up, you're welcome to come along. We have lots of gloves and bags, and there's lots of blown mess around. So that will be Saturday in the morning. I want to also just briefly talk about the age-friendly event that was held here on Friday the 11th. It was jam-packed. We had extra chairs set up. We knew, according to the fire office, that we could have about 80 people. We set up 83, not we, I did not set up chairs. Staff set up 83 chairs, and we filled those chairs to hear about the various scams going on in Niagara. It was a really good, well-received presentation by our local police. They spent at least an hour and a half talking about various things, sometimes in words, sometimes in videos, trying to hit home about protecting yourselves as an older adult in particular. And the third thing I want to talk about is the Easter Fest on Saturday. Staff did an excellent job running activities for families. It was one of the nicer Good Fridays that we've had in terms of the weather, and lots of people out enjoying that. So kudos to staff for that work. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, seeing nothing. I'm sorry?
I'm just waiting to the next item.
Okay, here it comes. 10.2, item CS 34-25, members of council. Other business items of informative nature. Go ahead, Councillor Chichuk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention the Niagara Farm Day that's scheduled for May 10th at the West Niagara Agricultural Society's grounds. It is another event coming to West Lincoln at the fairgrounds. It is an opportunity for your whole family to see about agriculture. And it's agricultural education displays, agricultural displays in the Richardson Building, scheduled agricultural demonstrations, and they're going to be holding the first ever chicken wing eating contest. I thought this one might be of interest to the mayor, especially a pie eating contest, since she's already experienced in that, as well as a chocolate milk drinking contest. The funny thing is that this is, the food booth will actually be there, the 4-H food booth will also be there, and you can register online through Eventbrite, and the cost is very minimal. There's no charge.
Sounds like a fantastic event.
That's right, and for anybody who's been hoarding their bottles, just as another point, the Kiwanis are having a bottle drive, I understand, on Saturday. While the mayor's out cleaning up the grounds, we are hoping to clean up, we're hoping that they will clean up by collecting all of the odds and sods of bottles and cans, and liners from plastic liners from wine kegs, and that will be collected and the money going for the use of projects by the Kiwanis.
I heard some rattling on your trunk when you pulled up, Councillor
really?
Chuck, so I was suspicious, but now I know why.
insulated them, but thank you.
Councillor Riley.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, to the council's comments there, I've been storing some bottles there for almost a year now. So last time it kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't, wasn't enough information. So yeah. Anyways, I have a few. Yeah, almost a year. I'm not a big drinker, unfortunately. Couple things. So I think the first thing I wanted to mention, I'll just mention at the gate, Monday, April 28th, big federal election. So if you haven't already, please go out and vote. Very important. We need everyone to do their part. And, as we always hear, if you don't vote, you shouldn't complain. The second part is, and I don't know which member of staff to direct this to, but over the weekend, when I was at one of the advance polls there, actually in Caister, something came to my attention on more than one resident expressing concerns when they're able to use the walking track. And so the issue with the walking track appears to be, and this was the first time I was learning about this, maybe some other members of council may have heard it, but there was, I guess, with some of the tournaments, I got to be careful how I phrase this because of how everything's supposed to be. Can't name people or imply organizations, but there's events happening at the arena, and events taking place in the arena. And so I guess my question comes down to who's truly accountable. So some residents that are trying to use a walking track are being prevented, and in some situations are being sworn at, being mistreated because other members who are there participating, and it sounds like it's more out-of-town people who are coming into our community are refusing to get out of the way of the walking track to allow them to kind of have that enjoyable use of it, and instead they're creating a bit of a toxic situation. So I really wanted to, I guess, put it out there because I'm sure staff's not aware of this. I feel if staff was aware of this, they would have handled this. But this seems to be a growing issue anytime there's some kind of big event that's taking place at the arena. And I certainly hope a message can be relayed to those tournament conveners that they're the ones that are responsible for their guests, because if they're not doing their due diligence, and that's not fair that we have people coming in from outside the municipality who seem to not understand the walking tracks for walking, choosing to stand in it, and then not even just standing in it, but then are being aggressive and rude and disrespectful to people who are trying to use the walking track themselves and who are taxpayers who pay for that walking track and that privilege. And so again, I don't really know how to steer the question other than bring the concern forward that I don't know if there needs to be a disclosure when you go and rent that facility and you're doing special events or how that looks, that they are to remind the guests. I don't know if maybe staff even consider putting signage up around it, small minimal signage to remind people to kind of give, I look at it from a staffing level to, if a staff member has to go in and let people know, like, hey, listen, we're hearing reports, look at the sign, go sit down if you want to participate, watch whatever's going on there. But that to me was very heartbreaking and devastating to hear, because some people say, I don't even want to go there. I go to the front desk now to ask what's happening this weekend so I know how to plan my weekend, because as a result, I don't want to be yelled at, harassed, just for using the walking track And then the other complaint was, that was brought to my attention, is that as a result of some of these events, some of the younger participants are now using the walking track as kind of a games area in terms of different types of equipment that they're bringing up there that occupy themselves in between some of the other events that are going on, which is not what it was intended for. So again, I really wanted to put that out there. I'm not looking necessarily for a response now other than you just be informed, and hopefully we have the ability to look into this and restore some of that positiveness that walking track provides so many people.
Thank you very much for that information. Being at the walking track last week, I saw there is signage suggesting that teams are not using that as a training space, and I'm assuming that contracts also include language around appropriate behavior from people who are in the space, but I'll turn this over to the CEO for further comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to Councillor Riley. I had just penned an email to Ms. Summers about that, and she will be following up tomorrow with staff to make sure that we can resolve this conduct issue.
Perfect. And if you'd like, I can provide a little further detail that I can't provide right here, right now. Thank you.
Councillor Maychuk.
Yeah, I'll just be brief, but I want to thank my council colleague, William Riley, and myself co-hosted, I guess, last week at the town hall. I just want to thank the other members of council, especially the mayor who came and were able to answer some questions. But first and foremost, I just wanted to thank the residents that came out, that took time out of their busy schedule to give us feedback, but also address some issues and concerns. And I think we're all on the same page that we're always willing to hear concerns of the constituents and try to do things better. And certainly we learned as well that next time we do the town hall, maybe we make some changes to even make it better for the constituents. But I just wanted to thank those that came out and expressed their opinions.
Great. Okay, seeing no others, we'll move on to item 10.3, CS 35-2025. Councillor William Riley, support of Canadian economy. Recommendation. Whereas the Township of West Lincoln recognizes the economic challenges posed by the proposed U.S. tariffs on local and domestic businesses, workers, and economic stability on both sides of the border, and whereas at the Niagara borders, 9.1 million people crossed into the U.S. from Canada, and 9.3 million people crossed from the U.S. into Canada, and whereas a total of $119.5 billion in goods transited at the borders in Niagara, $57.8 billion were exports to the U.S., and $61.6 billion were imports to Canada. And whereas Niagara borders and the U.S. accounted for 11.4% of the total goods traded between Canada and the U.S., and whereas Premier Doug Ford has stated the proposed tariffs could cost Ontario 500,000 jobs, and whereas in 2023, 532 businesses in Niagara exported $5.9 billion in goods to the U.S., and the U.S. market accounts for 72% of total exports from Niagara. And whereas the implementation of a 25% tariff on Canadian goods threatens not only local businesses, but also the broader supply chain that fuels economic activity across Ontario and the rest of Canada. And whereas it is imperative that all levels of government work together to address these challenges, ensuring that our procurement policies support domestic industries while maintaining competitive and sustainable growth. And whereas given the importance of trade and infrastructure investments in shaping the future of our communities, West Lincoln stands ready to take decisive action in collaboration with provincial and federal stakeholders, and whereas municipalities have traditionally been restricted by federal and provincial trade agreements from giving preference to Buy Canadian initiatives, and now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township of West Lincoln Council calls on provincial and federal governments to remove any impediments to municipalities preferentially procuring and Canadian companies for capital projects and supplies, and be it further resolved that the Township Council calls on their provincial and federal governments to continue to work together on a response that protects the Canadian economy through measures such as expanding export opportunities outside of the U.S. market, removing interprovincial trade barriers, continuing to push for exemptions and tariff reductions via diplomatic channels, and be further resolved that the Township of West Lincoln Council formally acknowledges that the economic challenges posed by the proposed U.S. tariffs and commits to adopting strategies that will protect our local and domestic economy, and that the subject to provincial and federal changes to legislation, adjustments will be made to our procurement policies that prioritize Canadian businesses, strengthen trade advocacy efforts and promote interprovincial collaboration to mitigate the impact of tariffs, and be it further resolved that the copies of this motion be sent to the Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, AMO, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Niagara Regional Municipalities, Niagara Region MPPs, Niagara Region MPs. May I have a mover? Councillor Riley, second by Councillor Maychuk. And Councillor Riley, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start by thanking Councillor Braderick for reading through that. We had a chat earlier today and joking around, maybe I should be reading this considering how long it is, but I have to say I don't think I would have read it as smoothly as you did, so I certainly appreciate you doing that, and you didn't pass out. You're concerned, so happy to see that. I also wanted to mention this was not something that I made myself. This was something in collaboration with staff who helped me, so I do want to thank staff for the assistance in finding the right words and making sense of the ideas we had. And for those who are wondering, because we have the upcoming election, we weren't going to name anybody other than the Office of Prime Minister and the office of all the other ones mentioned, other than Honourable Doug Ford. And so this is really just one more step along the way here as we continue our ongoing battle and trade disputes, but even moving beyond that, when that day comes and all that stuff's kind of put beside us, we do need to look at a better economic approach on how Canada steers through the future. And so hopefully our provincial and federal governments truly get on board. It's great campaign time, and we're hearing a lot of stuff thrown around. I think the province has made it clear they're on board. I'd like to see our federal government rise to the occasion as well, and I hope that council will support this moving forward. And at the right appropriate time, Madam Chair, I would call for a recorded vote.
Thank you very much. Any other members of council? Councillor Maychuk.
Just a question through the chair, maybe to the clerk. Being that there is an election on the 28th, does it make sense that this motion be approved tonight, but then be sent to them after the election, knowing that a new cabinet will be selected and some of these individuals will be named and some names will change?
Through the chair to Councillor Maychuk, absolutely. We will wait just in case we don't want this to get lost in the mail between shuffling of offices perchance. So we will wait until a little bit after, and we did make sure to scrub the names just in case there are changes to certain ministries and positions, and the only one that we had included was the Premier, Doug Ford, as they just reinstated their administration. So yes, this will wait until after everything is certain, and just to make sure that our point is made clear to the appropriate people.
Yes, certainly,
Thank you,
Councillor
Madam Chair.
Riley.
To the councillor, to you. So again, the other aspect is it needs to be ratified next week. So this is not something that would get acted on right now. With everything that gets settled by the time the dust settles over the next week, and as everyone learns on Tuesday, the success of the election, this wouldn't be implemented. This would just be passed at council there. Bylaw would be created, and staff would wait to the appropriate time to bring that forward.
Any other members of council? Just a quick comment. I think, when we look at our procurement policies as they state now and what they have been in the past, we're always looking for the best bang for our buck in our use of our tax dollars, that we certainly respect how we spend those dollars. But going forward, thinking about how that also affects our local and broader local communities is imperative, and probably should have always been part of how our procurement policy worked, even if it meant spending a little bit more money, that keeping the money local would be the right thing to do. So I'm glad to see this come in front of us, and the vote will be in front of you now.
Through the chair to the rest of council, if it's acceptable, I'll just read out the individuals as I see them on my screen. I will just need a yes or a no in terms of how you would vote. My first person is Mayor Ganan.
Yes.
Councillor Riley.
Absolutely.
Councillor Bradrick.
Support.
Councillor Chichok.
Yes.
Councillor Maychuk.
Very supportive.
That carries.
Thank you very much. So we're on to new business. Only items that require immediate attention, direction, must first approve a motion to introduce a new item of business. Is there any counselor willing to bring that forward? Nothing at this time. 12, confidential matters. The recommendation is that the next portion of this meeting be closed to the public to consider the following pursuant to Section 239, Bracket 2 of the Municipal Act 2001. 12.1, Director, Corporate Services, CFO, Caitlin Repovs, confidential report, organizational resourcing follow-up, applicable closed session exemption, litigation or potential litigation, and advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chichuk, second by Mayor Ganan. And the vote will come in front of you. And that carries, and we'll now go into confidential. Thank you very much for sticking with us or fast forwarding during the recorded session. We are moving on to item 13, disclosure of confidential matters, and I will turn to the clerk to read those.
Through the chair to the rest of council, I'll need a mover and seconder after I read the motion that administration proceed as directed in closed session in regards to item 12.1.
And do we have a mover? Councillor Maychuk and Councillor Ganan. And we will show of hands in support of that. And that carries. And that brings us to our adjournment for tonight, and we adjourn our meeting at 8:22. Go Leafs.